3.5, graphing with y equals mx plus b. I like using this way of graphing. We have already looked at this equation and have seen that m is our slope. And we've already talked about the b. We didn't call it a b, but the y-intercept is the letter b. And so the y-intercept, remember, is going to be on the y-axis. And typically it's written as an ordered pair if it's alone. So the y-intercept 0, let's say 4, in an equation would just be written as a plus 4. And so this is what we're going to use to graph. And this is when graphing gets a little bit easier if you'll focus on the m and the b. And so what we're going to do is, let's look at a problem. We're going to go ahead and just start looking at some examples. This is our b, and this is the m. The b is the letter that's by itself. It's the constant. I think they should have called it the c, but they called it a b for some reason. The number in front of your x is always your m. And so what we're going to do is we're going to begin with the b on y. So I'm going to take and put on the y-axis at the number 3 is going to be our first dot. Then we take our m and we write it as a fraction. And we want to make a note that this is going to go up, that's our rise, and that's our run. So from where we are starting here, we're going to go up to 1, 2, and over 1. Then we'll do the same thing, up 2 and over 1. And then we would draw a line connecting and go make it nice and long. Use a straight edge. I'm freehanding it because it's a little hard with the ruler on this thing. And there's our line for this equation. And I didn't have to do a t-chart, and I didn't have to do my equations 3 times. So let's go ahead and let's look at another one. Here we're going to start. The b is 2. This is where we will begin. Our m is -3 over +4, which means we'll go down and to the right. Or we could write this as a +3 and a -4, where we would go up and to the left. And this is going to be handy sometimes if your graph is really small and you run out of space. For this one, we're going to graph it, and I'm going to pause this a minute and move the graphs down so these will line up a little bit better. Okay, let's go ahead and graph this one. I am going to begin at 2 on the y, so there's my first dot. Then I apply my slope down 3, 1, 2, 3, and to the right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have to do it again, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can draw my line there. And if I can get my line straight enough on here, it should fall at the same place if I went up 3, 1, 2, 3, and left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those should all just fall right in line. And so you can begin back at your beginning point and go the other direction if you need to. Let's look at another problem. We have negative 5x plus 3y equals 12. We've got to get the 3y by itself first. So we've got 12 plus the 5x. Then we'll come through and divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3, so that y will equal 4 plus 5/3 x. Now, even when the x isn't in the first position, we know that this is our slope and that this is b, because it's the number that's by itself. It's the constant. So that's where we will begin at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. My slope is, it's 5/3, so that's up and to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. And here's an instance where I can't go up any further. So I'm going to take this number, 5/3. If both of these numbers are negative, and two negatives are the same as a positive, so I can go down and to the left from my beginning point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. And you can see how these dots line up. Well, hopefully better on your paper than it did on mine. Okay. All right, let's look at one more before I ask you to do some practice with this. X equals 2/5 y. Remember, we need to get y by itself, and it really doesn't matter that y is on the right or the left. What matters is that it's alone. So we're going to multiply by the reciprocal so that this will cancel. And we'll do the same thing over here. And so now the number in front of my x is my slope. And so we're talking 5/2 up and to the right. And my b, well, there's not a constant number, so my b is 0. Go over here, start at 0, 0, and we're going to go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the right 2. I'll have just enough space to do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the right 2. And then notice, if I go back to my beginning place and I do this as two negatives, because two negatives equal a positive, these are equal, I would go down and left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and left 2. And you can see it all lines up. Okay, let's go ahead and let you practice a little bit of this. And then we're going to talk about the second part of this section. So do some practice. That's the first one. And then the second one. Okay, now you have to do rearranging on both of these, so they're not the easier ones, they're harder. And so you're really going to have to think and remember your skills on the steps for solving equations. Okay, good luck. Okay, here's the equation solved and the b's picked out and the slopes written. They both ended up with a positive slope. So look at that. Then we'll look at the graph. Here is the green, starting at -3, going up 3 and over 2, doing it again. Here's the purple, or may look pink to you, starting at 0, going up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, and connecting the dots. Okay. The second part of this is what I call 3.5b, and we're just writing equations. It just takes everything that we've already talked about and puts it together. And so you've got y equals mx plus b. You need the b and you need the m to be able to write an equation. Well, to find slope, that's our m. We have 3 different ways that we talked about. When you're looking at a graph, it's that rise over run with the triangle. If you have points, it's the formula. y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. And then 3, we talked about, it's what's in front of x. And you may need to know this one also if you're doing some comparing with some other lines. You want to remember that. So, and then the b is the y-intercept. And we've talked about, and that's on a graph. That's wherever it is here on the y-axis. If it's in an ordered pair, it's going to be this number. That's our b. So we'll take this information and plug it into that equation. We need slope, we need the b, we need the equation. So if I'm given b equals -3 and m equals 1/2, then my equation is y equals 1/2 x minus 3. I like to call these, thing 1, thing 2, and then thing 3 is our equation. Thing 1 is your y-intercept. Thing 2, slope. Thing 3 is your formula. Well, really, the equation. If you'll use these 3 things, you can graph and write equations. Okay, so let's see. Let's do some examples of where we're going to have to find our slope. So we want okay, how'd you like that graph just magically appearing? Here, if I want to write an equation, I need the 3 things, okay? Number 1 is b. What is my b? When I look on the graph, it's right here where I'm crossing the y-axis. So b equals -1. Number 2, I need the slope. The slope from point to point. Create your triangle. Then count. I've got 1, 2, 3. That's my rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my run. Everything's going up. So it's 3/5. Thing 3. I need y equals mx plus b. Y equals 3/5 x minus 1. So whether they give it to me as b and m, or if I have to use the graph and find my m and find my b, perhaps I have a problem that says okay, here's the problem we want to work on. Find equation of the line parallel to y equals 3x minus 9 through the y-intercept 0 and 2. And so what I need to write an equation is I need the b, I need the m, and that's all I need to stick into this mx plus or minus the b. The b, the y-intercept is right here. It's the y number. Then I need the m. There's my m of the other line, and it says I need one that's parallel. Parallel slopes are the same. So there's my slope. And so it's 3x plus, I don't know why I wrote y there, 2. This should be a 2. Okay. Y equals 3x plus 2. Let's look at another one. Find equation of horizontal line through -3, 3. Okay, so these are some of the more difficult ones that are in this section of homework. Your clue word here is horizontal line, because you've got to remember that horizontal line not line, it goes across y. So the equation is y equals the number. That's it. Y equals, and what's in the y place? 3. So y equals 3. is the equation of the horizontal line because it goes across the y. Remember, the vertical goes across the x. This goes across x, so your equation is x equals the number. So you want to keep that in mind as you're doing this homework. Sorry about that. Okay. Alright, good luck with this homework. So this finishes 3.5A and B. Your next section will be in chapter 4, but it will also be about graphing. It's very important that you get this homework done so that you'll understand what's going on when you move on to the next section. And if you have questions, hit the Ask My Instructor button. Bye.